So the past month I've been focusing on the combat side of things, so let's take a look into it. So limb-based damages. Enemies now have collision boxes tied to their heads, arms, and legs, and then on top of that, your attacks also have little like sweet spots, and depending on what type of attack you're doing, that spot changes. And then in most cases, limbs and heads are about half of the HP of the enemy if there's no armor. Once a limb reaches 0%, it'll be cut off and then it will apply bleed to it. Targeting legs will cause the enemy to be crippled and their move speed will be reduced to about half. And then if they take more leg damage, then they'll go into a crawl state, and then from there they can bleed out, but at that point they're just not a threat anymore. You can target enemies' arms to cut them off, and they'll also drop their weapons, allowing you to pick it up. And then if you target their heads, enemy head health has half the enemy's max HP, so essentially you can kill an enemy by only taking out half their HP. So pretty much in the last devlog, there was only swords and different variation of this two-hand sword, so I went back to my code and refactored a lot of things, and pretty much I added a bunch of attributions to the weapons to make a lot of variety. For example, I added weapon length, blunt damage, wind-up speed, recovery cooldown, attack movement, special projectiles, elemental ticks, and so on. And the cool thing is the system's pretty flexible, so I can add a lot of variations to different weapons. On top of that, I've added weapon types such as one hands, shields, fists, two hands, bows, and revolvers, which all have different animations. And the cool part about this is now you can dual wield weapons, baby. So for example, you can have like a poison dagger with an ice boomerang and alternate between those two attacks. I won't lie, at first I was kind of reluctant about adding ranged weapons, but then I remember most of the fun of roguelikes is the aspect of engine building and having like different types of playstyles. So I wanted to lean into that. So that's why I made like a bow and revolver, and I haven't made anything to synergize with them yet, but any of you ranger players out there, let me know what synergies you would like to see. I've also been playing around with like movement type damage. So for example, this item super dash, when you roll they take a little bit of damage, and then I also added this head stomper item that lets you jump on top of enemies' heads if you press A at the right time. It's kind of silly, but I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of fun. If you're new here, I'm working on this game called Pirates of Pandama. It's a 4-player action roguelike. The quick and dirty elevator pitch is, what if Chivalry 2 had Risk or Rain item progression with pirates that are in the air with some very, very light RPG elements? If that sounds cool to you, we have a Steam page out, link in bio. Anyways, back to the update. So I've been reworking the counter system. So before, you would tap block, then match the attack to perform the counter, and counter will allow you to regain your stamina along with like getting a hit in. I still kept this in, but after watching some playtests, it hasn't been clicking right away with a lot of people. To help counteract this, I added like a perfect parry system where as long as you tap block at the right time, it also does a counter attack. That way it just kind of simplifies everything, especially for a goofy game that sells you on like a powerful pirate fantasy, you know? Alright, let's get into poise. So before, everyone was able to get hit stun and your attacks were able to be interrupted as long as you are in the wind-up phase. Interrupts are still a thing, but for elites and heavier enemies, they have this like resistant threshold. So doing light attacks will sometimes interrupt it, but it's kind of a gamble. But if you hold down an attack, it will do a heavier version of that, and then as long as you pass that threshold, it will for sure interrupt them. You can also just jab them to do a for sure interrupt, but that way it would prevent just slash spamming. So you know how I talked about dual wielding? Well, enemies can do that now, and they have access to all the equipable armor and weapons that the player have. Another addition to enemy behavior is archetypes. So one thing I noticed is that randomizing a bunch of enemy stats wasn't the best idea. Like, sure, they were all different, but it didn't feel right. So I kind of looked at like how Halo and Enter the Gungeon approached their enemy design. I yoinked their philosophy of having specific enemies for specific tasks. So let's get into the enemy archetypes. So first, we have the captains. These guys, they just drive their ships. They're relatively weak. If you take them out, the ship won't be drivable, at least for the enemy's part. You can still hijack their ships. Next, we have the archers. These guys are the most annoying class in Chivalry, and probably in this game too. They'll shoot arrows at you while you're engaged in melee, and it's probably a good idea to kill these guys first. After that, we got the tech support. These guys are weak, but they do provide healing and temporary shields for enemies. These guys also tend to have droid pets that do the same thing, so it's a good idea to take these guys out too. Next, we got the cannoneers. These guys are pretty weak fighting wise, but they can repair ships and shoot cannons at you, which can get pretty devastating if you get hit. So we have tanks. Their main purpose is to walk up to you slowly and hold down block and slowly shield. Hitting them, they have a chance to do counter attacks, so it's best to just like kick spam them to break their block. They also tend to have high poise, so you're gonna have to use more heavy attacks against them. Next, we got the ambusher. These guys are more like cannon fodders. Well, they'll just run up to you and spam slash. And then they also have a cousin called the pokers, another type of cannon fodder that'll just run up to you with spears and spam stab. The goal of these guys is to give you easy counters pretty much. And last but not least, we have the elite slash duelist, and these guys, they do a mix of everything. They tend to be more aggressive and they do high damage, and they also know how to feint attacks, so they'll do like a slash to stab and they'll mix things up, dodge more, and these guys are supposed to be more like player like, I guess. On top of enemy AI, I've also been working on status effects, so let's get into it. So as of right now, I have fire, shock, poison, and freeze, and essentially everyone has their own inherent resistance to it, and as those elemental ticks go up, if it goes past that resistance, that's when you take the elemental effect. So let's start with fire. So pretty much if you go past that resistance, then you catch on fire. Just remember, if you're on fire, you can always stop, drop, and roll. Next, we got shock, which is kind of straightforward. Pretty much you build up a static charge, and once it passes that threshold, you create this AoE that also affects other entities, causing a chain reaction. After that, we have ice. After doing enough ice damage, it'll cause enemies to freeze. Different weapons have different blunt damage bonus, so like heavy weapons like mace and hammers, they have blunt damage, and that blunt damage will do double to frozen enemies. Blunt damage also does more damage to armored enemies. And last, we have poison, which is all reliable, and unlike fire, it won't backfire. So every 10 stacks of poison, it'll do an extra 1 damage per second pretty much. There's definitely a lot of smaller tweaks that I've made, but those were the biggest strides, at least this month. My next focus is to take the same love I put in the combat and do the same for the ships. The cool thing is that like these systems help support each other, so in a way, focusing on this combat side is also going to help with the ship side. Anyways, thank you guys so much for tuning in. I was not expecting to get so much support in the first video, and you all are awesome for that. If you want to see exclusive behind the scene development on progress, feel free to join the Discord community. Before I go, I want to share some cool projects that some of the community members been up to. So first we got Onar Flux Production. He just made an itch.io asset packs. He does a lot of sick music, so you should definitely go check him out. I'll put him in the link below. And then last but not least, if you like game dev projects, and if you like roguelikes, check out Game Below. He's working on a cockroach arena roguelike. I played some of the demo and it was definitely pretty fun. Still like super early in development, but it's cool seeing progress from other developers. Anyways, go check out these guys, and until next time, peace out.